Face. Got a little bonus episode for you guys here today. And yeah, this one's gonna be a little bit of a hard one, but I think it's a necessary thing we talk about what I'm about to bring up here today. What's up, Norma? See, Norma, I told you I would be back at 2 o'clock. This is when you're used to seeing me on Saturdays. And so 2 o'clock, here we are. But yeah, this week, because of the fasting, I did have to squeeze in a fasting episode, but this is one I want to get out there here today. What's up, Patty and Sharon and Nancy? Thank you all for being here. We're getting ready to start my show, Jimmy Rants, and this is probably going to be one of the hardest Jimmy Rants that I've ever done because we need to be having discussions that simply aren't happening right now. What's up, Ron? Love you, my brother. All that you're going through right now in your life, but I really hope that things settle down because I know you've had a tough time lately. Hello, Christine and Dalen and Pam. Thank you all for being here. And welcome in, YouTubers. Thank you for being here today as well. We got a great show in store for you. So I guess we need to get this show on the road. You guys ready? All right, here we go. Why do some white people not stand up for the social injustices happening to the black community? We're going to talk about that here today on Jimmy Rants. Click on that little button down in the corner and you can go right to IGTV and get the full story about this here today. JimmyRants.com is the website, and as always, you can engage live in the content, but you got to go follow me. I'm over on Instagram. You can follow me at Livin' Low Carb Man, LIVINLOWCARBMAN. Once you're there, you can engage live in the content and enjoy all that we share here on Jimmy Rants. If you missed the live, you can watch it on replay on IGTV. We also simulcast over here on my Facebook page, so welcome you guys. And we also simulcast on the live YouTube stream. So welcome to the entire Jimmy Rant here today. If you missed the live, we do have it here on IGTV. We also throw it up over on YouTube on replay. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants, you'll find the show. Finally, you can go to the official website for Jimmy Rants, is at JimmyRants.com. And once you're there, you can see all the past episodes, over 500 episodes and counting. And then if you want to support what we're doing here, I don't have any advertisers or anything on this show, but if you like what I do and you get benefit out of it, definitely we have a Patreon link if you want to support what we're doing here on Jimmy Rants. Okay, you guys, hold on to your seats because this is going to be a difficult but necessary conversation today. And as you guys know, we have a very open conversation going on in our country right now. And it's all surrounding the subject of race relations. And I think we have some gaps in the way things are being talked about. And I'll tell you what happened for me this week. So I started posting some things on social media where I was expressing in my heart of hearts love for people and how I hope we can all rally together and do something about this issue to bring it to an end once and for all. Unfortunately, the language that I used was a trigger for emotional reactions from the black community and those who are advocates of the black community. And of course, unbeknownst to me, that was happening. And this is something I want to just scream loud and clear. Can we please show each other a lot of grace right now? Because, and they know abundantly about all of the issues and the things that they believe in their heart of hearts and the language used, that a lot of white people are just now understanding. A lot of white people are just coming to the knowledge about how certain phraseology doesn't pass and how that they just don't know what things mean. And I, in my heart of hearts, think that most white people want this racism issue to go away. We want it resolved. We want equal opportunity and justice and all the things for the Black community. Can we just say that loud and clear? That I don't think, there are obviously exceptions, very extremists on both sides of this issue that love nothing more than to just keep the discord going. But most of us want to have this resolved. And so it's been disheartening to see that when a white person is trying to say positive things in a positive way about this issue to show their support for and love for the Black community, they've kind of gotten ostracized. And I think that is the wrong way to handle this. And I've seen this replicated. It happened to me, and it happened to a lot of people that were just heart of hearts trying to contribute something positive as a show of support. And what invariably happened was people would come after them. Oh, you're still exerting your white privilege. You have no business talking whatsoever about this subject. You're so tone deaf. You just need to be quiet, blah, 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 blah. And I get it. The frustration from the Black community is real. And I think we in the white community need to understand that this is something they feel like they have fought for years, decades, centuries. And if we don't have an understanding of that frustration that they have, then we're missing the mark. And vice versa. If the Black community doesn't understand that we don't know what we don't know and doesn't have patience with us as they're teaching us, this was the thing for me. I didn't learn about the ways I was saying things and how to correct them and how to make them more appropriate until a white woman explained it to me. And it took a white woman who spent an hour of her time right here on Instagram, Beth. She kind of explained, when you say this, this is what is being heard. I know you mean it this way, but this is the way it's being interpreted, blah, 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 blah. And I'm going, what? Like, I literally had no idea. And I wanted to use today's Jimmy Rants to talk about various reasons why there are some white people who don't engage in helping the Black community, even though that's the call that we're all hearing right now. Oh, white people, we need your help. We need your voice. We need you to speak out. There's reasons why they're not doing it. And it has nothing to do with them being racist. It has nothing to do with them not wanting to help. These reasons, and I came up with these this morning just kind of scouring social media and looking at various things that people were saying. These were actual things people are saying actively on social media right now that could be barriers as to why the Black community is not getting near the support of the white community that they would love. So I wanted to do this as a service to the Black community so they understood some of the challenges that they're facing. Now, they know some of these things, but some of them might be brand new. So, you ready to go over these? And again, this is not an exhaustive list. This is just 15 things that as I was scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, I was looking at actual comments people were making, things they were posting on their pages, and I culled out these reasons. And it's, like I said, it's 15 of them. So, number one, reasons why white people don't stand up for social injustice and equal rights for Black people. Number one, they're afraid of the mob mentality and being labeled a racist for saying the wrong things. I had a lady write me this morning. She said, better you than me out there talking about this because I don't want to be called a racist. A white person, one of the worst things you can do is call them a racist. And it's an ugly, ugly term to throw on a white person. And there is this real fear of being called a racist, but more than that, being come after. And I felt that this week, you guys. I was come after by so many people who thought I was, what did one person call me? You're a white supremacist, male chauvinist pig who's a no mask wearing Trump lover. And I'm going, okay, that's that's a lot of conclusions for someone who's saying, gather around and love each other. I was like going, okay, that's a lot of accusations there. But you see, that's why people are resistant. People don't want to talk about this because they don't want that mob coming after them. And the funny thing is, a lot of the mob is not the African American community. It's white people who are standing up on behalf of the black community, which is beautiful. I think that's great that there are people who are standing up in the white community for the black community. I'm now one of those people. But man, the mob mentality, being labeled a racist because you say things in the wrong way. I'm going to remind you, if you don't know, you don't know. And so let's be forgiving for people who don't know how to say things the correct way. Here's how you handle someone who's obviously making an effort to understand and be involved in this discussion. Rather than lash out, why don't we say, thank you so much for the loving way that you're putting message out there. We really appreciate having you as an advocate on our side. But let me tell you, when you say this phrase, it doesn't come across the way you think it does. How about you understand that when you say this phrase, it means this to us, but instead, try this phrase, which is a more accurate depiction of what we would like to hear happen because it's more aware of the issues. You see how loving and calm and kind that is? This is what happened for me this week. I was gently educated so that I could understand. And this is why I've been talking about this a lot more, is I did not, until this week, 48 years old, 48 years of my life, I never had somebody explain a lot of the things that were explained to me this week. And I think that is a huge, huge barrier for the black community to overcome. I know they're full of rage and passion about this subject because you feel like you haven't been heard for so long. And you feel like you've maybe tried to educate for years and it's seemingly fallen on deaf ears. Can I tell you, your efforts are not in vain if you're still trying to do that? Still make the effort, because a lot of us want to learn. It's just, it's not getting through because of the anger. And again, not just from the African American community, but a lot of the white people who are advocating for the black community. They came after me hard. And of course, when you hear all this negativity, your first thing to do is shut down. You don't want to hear anything because everybody's coming at you so fast. It takes loving kindness, empathy, compassion, clearly articulating what you want to be heard. And so I hate it that people are afraid in the white community to speak up. If you're a white person and you want to talk about this and you're afraid of the mob mentality, can I just say, get out there and talk anyway, and share your thoughts if you feel led to do it. And if you do it the wrong way, then gently try to engage with people. I don't think we need to shut out white voices. And I know the argument is, well, we've heard from white long enough, it's time for the black voices to rise up and only be heard. I don't agree with that. I think we all need to be talking and all need to be having a dialogue. Because if all we hear is the black voices and the white voices don't get to like ask questions and we have this conversation and this trying to get an understanding, how are we ever going to move forward? And I've had people write me like, I feel like white people are being silenced right now, that you're not allowed to say anything. And I know a lot of you guys are feeling that too. It's one reason I wanted to be more vocal in speaking about these things, because I wanted white people to see there is a way to do this. There is a way to be an advocate for all the social injustices that the black community is going through. And they need us, you guys. They need us to speak up on their behalf, because a lot of them are weary. They feel like they've been doing this their whole lives and they've had to deal with the consequences of being a black person in America. All right, so that's number one. If you just joined us, we're going over 15 reasons, and it's not a comprehensive list by any means, but it's 15 things that I came up with scrolling through social media today, why white people don't engage in helping the black community. And this is a conversation I think we need to be having. Number one was people are afraid. But number two, white people don't feel like they've done anything personally wrong to people of color and thus should not be held accountable for their ancestors' actions. I've heard this one quite a bit. Well, why do I have to do anything now? It's not my fault, and I'm not racist. I didn't do this to them, da 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 da. And I was watching a very beautiful video discussion yesterday of a group of black women who were doing like a roundtable discussion, and they brought up this subject of, well, when white people say they didn't do this to us, I want to say back to them, well, I didn't do that to my ancestors either, where they were treated poorly. But today I have to suffer the consequences of them being treated poorly. And it puts it in perspective, because the white person is saying, well, I didn't do this, but your ancestors did. Now, that doesn't mean we need to pay for the sins of our past, but it does mean that we need to have a heart and understanding for how our ancestors did do actions that set the black community back. And this is something that we can be proactive about, being specifically anti-racist, being specifically proactive at doing things to make sure that our black brothers and sisters are able to have just as much of an opportunity as we do. And so you might not have done anything wrong personally, white person, in 2020, but your ancestors did, and their ancestors had to get the consequences. Now, that angers people because they're like, well, I didn't do anything wrong, so I don't have any culpability. Okay, that's fine. That's a heartless position you're taking there. I think we need to have compassion and realize that that hurt is real. And while we weren't the ones that did it, we certainly can be a part of the solution of ending it, ending the pain and the suffering that they've had to go through. Number three, white people honestly don't even think about people who are another color in their day-to-day lives. And I've seen this one a lot as well. People are like, well, I don't sit there and just like obsess about black people. I don't sit there and obsess about, okay, well, what am I going to do today to torment black people? And most people don't. Most people, it's not even on their radar screen that they do that. And so I think that for the black community, they want to be seen. One of the popular phrases is, well, I don't see color, I don't see race, I'm colorblind. The black community does not like that white community. They want to be seen. They want you to know the challenges they have to face because of the color of their skin. And until we recognize them and think about them and think about the plight that they've been through, we're never going to move past this racist attitude and kind of where we are in our society. That's kind of where we are with that one. Number four, they don't understand, talking about white people, what the phrase Black Lives Matter actually means, and why all lives matters is insulting. And I've talked about this one recently on social media. People will often say, well, no, all lives matter. Well, of course, but the analogy I'm seeing quite often all over social media is, imagine your neighbor's house is on fire. If your neighbor's house is on fire, are you going to scream at the fireman, hey, wait a minute, you're not spraying my house too, you need to spray my house with water? Why is their house getting sprayed with water but not mine? Sir, because theirs is the house that's on fire. Yeah, but I don't think that's fair. All houses matter, so you need to be spraying my house. You see the analogy, how it doesn't make sense? The black community's house is on fire, and so therefore they are the ones that need the help. This is why Black Lives Matter. It's not saying only Black Lives Matter. It's saying that because the plight of the black community, we need to be paying more attention to them. Black Lives Matter puts the focus on that. I don't know why people have a tough time with this. And I know it came out that Blue Lives Matter because the people were standing up for the police. And then All Lives Matter. It's just, I think part of the challenge too is Black Lives Matter has become a movement rather than, that's like a political type of movement rather than it being a human rights thing, a social justice thing. And I think that is kind of a challenge. And one of my reasons down here soon is going to talk about the political connection to this, because I think that is a huge barrier that the Black community needs to realize is keeping white people from engaging and helping them. All right, let's go to number 5. White people think that since slavery ended after the Civil War 150 years ago, and the Civil Rights Movement happened 60 years ago, that we're all good now. And of course, yes, those were good things. When Abraham Lincoln signed the Emancipation Proclamation, it was a huge, momentous day in the history of our country. But they weren't instantly accepted in society. Look at how long it took from the Emancipation Proclamation until we got to the desegregation of schools, till we got to the point where Black people were allowed to vote, allowed to get equal opportunity jobs, like challenges galore all the way for about 100 years. And now it's been 60 years since the Civil Rights Movement, and we're still not all the way there where they have full rights as white people do. Now, yes, they can go apply for a job, but some of the challenges are if they have a Black sounding name on a resume, or if they see them in person, that Black people are being denied opportunities. And I think we would be so foolish in the white world if we did not acknowledge that that kind of stuff was happening. I'll tell you what's happening in the NFL. There's a discussion now in the National Football League as to why minority coaches are not being promoted through the ranks. And they have this thing called the Rooney Rule, which requires teams, when they're going to hire a coach, to at least interview one Black candidate and give them the chance to try out. And they're not getting those opportunities. Now, I think that will probably change now that we're having this national discussion about this, but it's just such a shame that there are those challenges there. And I don't think most of the white community even realizes that. This next one's a big one. Number 6, they say we helped to elect the first Black president in U.S. history in 2007 when Barack Obama won the presidency, and that thus marked the end of racial strife and division, proving they're not racist. A lot of people did vote for Barack Obama as a way of saying, I'm sorry for all the racial strife in our country and the racism that existed. And whatever your thoughts are about Barack Obama, that's irrelevant in this discussion. But there are a lot of white people who do say, okay, if we got a Black man to the president of the United States of America, then there's no more racism. That was kind of the thought pattern that got put out there, that see, now we can put racism behind us. And here we are 12, 13 years later, and we're still having this discussion. So it didn't happen. But that is a barrier that, well, we helped to elect the first Black president. Isn't that enough? And so that's a big thing that keeps white people from engaging and helping the Black community. All right, this next one is probably the biggest one on the entire list. And it's one that I think has to be addressed sooner than later. Number 7, white people are concerned with the left-leaning progressive political undertone to the social injustice movement that some may disagree with philosophically. And again, regardless of what your political bent is, we can't deny that because Black Lives Matter with capital letters is there, that is a turn off to a lot of people who do not agree with those political leanings. And again, regardless of what your views are on that, you have to know that that is turning people away from the message. I think the message of lowercase Black Lives Matter should be that we're all trying to shine a bright light on the plight of what's happening in the Black community. And we should all be doing our part to reverse the social injustices that are going on in that community. But what's happened is a lot of the political people involved are kind of latching on to Black Lives Matter, and it's becoming this progressive, leftist leaning type of organization with the capital Black Lives Matter, that it turns people off that would not be intent on that political leaning. So I think if the people who are involved in BLM want to actually see it move forward as a social movement, they need to remove the political aspect of it entirely. And again, there's going to be political people who will politicize it for their own purposes. And I don't think necessarily for the purposes of promoting the human rights aspect of this, but promoting their own personal agenda with this. And so that's a huge reason why a lot of people in the white community don't engage, is it's so closely related to this progressive left-leaning of mentality. Number 8, there's a lot of people, you guys, in the white community who believe that all of this racial strife that's happening right now and all of this is coming up is only coming up now because it's a strategy to prevent Donald Trump from being reelected president in November. And again, no matter what your beliefs are politically, you have to acknowledge that there are a lot of people who have this jaded position that it's like, well, why is this coming up suddenly in 2020 when we're just months away from a presidential election? And so people have that viewpoint. You kind of have to realize, okay, maybe that's why they're not engaging, is they think a lot of this is to make Trump look bad. And again, regardless of what viewpoint is on the president, you have to acknowledge that this is something people are believing right now. And they're articulating it quite clearly here on Facebook. When I was scrolling, I saw at least 6 or 8 people who said almost verbatim that. And it's definitely going to be a barrier for why some white people, aren't engaging and helping in this cause. Number 9, white people don't feel like they have the right to share their honest opinions in the discussion, and they will be called out as ignorant, tone deaf, and a white supremacist with white privilege if they do share those views. So this is kind of like one I shared earlier, but there is this real chilling effect that's going on. And if people are expressing a different opinion, we don't need to be mocking them and making them look like they're racist pigs. We need to be saying, okay, thank you for sharing your opinion. We appreciate you adding to the discussion. Now let me share my opinion and let's have the discussion. This is the thing. We want to have help, to get this message forward, but you can't promote a message going forward until you start having dialogue. And you can't have dialogue until you have positions on both sides of an issue. This is what's kind of disturbing to a lot of people too, is it seems like one message is allowed to be talked about, and yet if you have the opposite message of that allowed to talk about message, you are ostracized and you are made to look bad. And I think if we're going to move this discussion forward in trying to help the Black community, then we need to have literally all sides being heard. Now, keep the ugliness out of it, have a real conversation. That's what needs to happen. Number 10, white people think anyone who brings up race relations, and I've already been called this too, there's this acronym SJW. Have you heard this one before? I actually had to Google it because people were just calling me that. They were like, "Oh, I didn't peg you for an SJW," and I was like, "What in the world is that?" So it's a pejorative that's supposed to be a derogatory term for people that are about social justice warrior, is what SJW stands for. And they say that anybody that's using race relations, they're just trying to cause trouble and not really looking for solutions. Look, We can have discussions about race without it being a rabble rouser. You don't have to just stir up stuff just to be stirring up stuff. You could truly be trying to be a part of the solution. That's what I'm trying to do in my work right now. I'm trying to be a conduit for good and a conduit for bringing this issue to an end. And so we can help resolve and help our brothers and sisters in the Black community to stop feeling oppressed and ostracized. And so I don't like the fact that there is a certain segment of the white population, oh, they're just SJW, and they just dismiss you. If that's you, white person, shame on you. Shame on you. Let's stop labeling things, and why don't we start actually helping people that are trying to help a downtrodden group of people. Number 11. White people honestly have no idea what it feels like to grow up in a world with black skin and all that comes with it. Guys, if you have not looked up on YouTube, and I know here on Instagram, I've seen a lot of IGTVs, some of the discussions that black parents have to have with their young black boys and girls, it is chilling. Like when I started looking at some of the things that parents are having to do to educate especially young black boys, when you go in a store, don't have your hands in your pocket. They will think you're stealing something. If you wear an oversized coat, don't hide your hands. They'll think you have a gun in there. This white boy was shocked because I didn't even think about any of that stuff. When you're walking down the road, don't be surprised if a white person approaches, they go to the other side of the road to avoid walking past you. If a white person shakes your hand, don't be surprised if they wipe their hand on their pants. Those kinds of things are chilling. Those are the kinds of things that as a white man in America, I didn't know about. I was totally oblivious to. I had no idea there was this extra layer of parenting having to take place because living in black skin comes with challenges. It does. And I think if anything out of all of that's happening right now, if nothing else, we are getting an education on what it's like to try to circumnavigate not just the world in general. All of us white people, we have our own problems. We ain't got this another layer of problems that the black community has. And I think we need to acknowledge, oh my gosh, just stepping outside their door becomes this, it's just, it's hit or miss whether they're going to have problems or not. And let's not even get started on getting pulled over. And they talk about, in a lot of those videos, they talk about have your ID and everything on your dashboard. Because if you get pulled over and they ask for license and registration and you don't clearly say, officer, may I please go in my glove compartment, or officer, can I please grab my wallet in order to get my ID out? They're having to tell them, don't just grab, you have to ask first, because there will be fear. You'll be shot dead if you don't. I've never had that fear in my life. Pulled over for traffic violations many a times, and never once did I worry about reaching back in my wallet to grab my ID or reaching into my glove compartment. I wasn't worried about the cop shooting me. But every black person does. It's chilling when you stop to think about some of these things that they have to go through. It's another layer of things they have to worry about. Number 12, white people think that police officers, some white people, police officers are being unfairly characterized as the enemy of the black community in all this discussion. And that is something that's out there very heavily. Oh, well, you know, they want to say that this one cop that killed George Floyd is indicative of all cops. And you have to think about it from the perspective of the black community. That is a perception based on what they see and based on continuing to see over and over and over again being treated poorly, even in the riots and some of the things that have been going on. We've seen some pretty horrible actions taken by white people, white cops, against black people that were protesting. And so the perception is there. Now, I blame the media for that one, by the way. I blame the media for only showing that, because there's many an opportunity where there's white cops helping the black community. And so the optics of it, I know they're trying to keep, a certain narrative going, but the problem is that narrative becomes a perception that becomes reality in the black community. And we in the white community, yes, we want to stand up for the good law enforcement people. My dad was a cop, and realize that they're not all bad. But we also need to realize there are some bad people in that field of work, and they must be rooted out somehow, some way. And that's incumbent on the local law enforcement offices to root out those people and get them out of the force. We don't need those kinds of people. So that's a perception, you guys, why white people don't engage in helping the black community. They feel like cops are being attacked. All cops. And you could not pay me enough money right now to be a law enforcement official in America. That has got to be the most thankless job in America. Kind of like a referee at a football game. It's like, they're all going to boo you. You're going to do something wrong. There's nothing you can do right. Number 13, white people think racism cuts both ways. Black people can also be just as racist towards white people. And this is a real belief, guys, that, the problem with white people standing up for the black community is it's made to look like only white people are racist towards black people, but some white people say, well, there's racism that comes back at the white community too. And I don't think anybody's denying that, but I don't think it's impacting the white community, the racism that might be coming from the black community, near like it is the other way around. And that's what they're trying to say is, okay, great, let's all stop being racist. Let's all stop being racist and let's start doing better for each other. 14, white people don't understand the level of decades of frustration that has led to all the protesting, looting, and destruction happening across America. And the white community is sitting here watching all the everything that's happening all across the United States, and they're like, oh my gosh, what is wrong? And they don't realize that this has been frustration that has built up over time. This didn't just happen. This is not just about George Floyd. George Floyd might have been the lighter that lit the bomb, but the bomb was sitting there all along. And I think the frustration just got to the point where it was just too much. And you know what I think contributed to this too? The frustration's been there for years, decades. But because of COVID-19 and everybody kind of being locked up in their houses and some of the mental anguish that started coming from that and then losing their jobs, I think it just hit a boiling point mentally. So that then when this happened, it lit people to want to do something. And quite frankly, I'm glad it's happening now, because now we're having these conversations. Now we're able to openly discuss this ugliness that is in our country. And I'm hoping that this can be something that will turn out to be a good thing and not a bad thing. All right, and then the last one on my list, number 15, white people don't know what they don't know about the reality of the privilege of living in white skin. And this is one that when it first was brought to my attention, oh, you just have white privilege, the first kind of knee-jerk reaction in my mind was, what? Like, no, I worked hard for what I do. I made it okay in my life. What do you mean, white privilege? I didn't get a leg up, but then I started thinking deeper. Do I have all of those barriers that someone that has black skin does? And the more I thought about it, the more I realized, no, No, I don't. I have my own barriers, but they're of my own making, and they're just the regular challenges. Imagine having all of that plus having to deal with having black skin and the challenges that come with that. Now, I know they've created various things to try to help the black community over the years. One of those things is this thing called affirmative action, and I have a story, by the way. So, affirmative action is where, especially within the college standpoint, when I was applying for like a scholarship to go to college, affirmative action says that if an equally qualified African American candidate applies for a scholarship that a white candidate and they have equal record, you give deference to the African American person that's applying. And so I was in line to get a scholarship for college, and I was declined, and they gave it to an equally qualified black person. And when it happened at the time, I thought, well, that's not fair. Of course, I wasn't thinking in this realm of what I'm thinking here today. But now, in hindsight, I go, no, I'm glad that that person got the opportunity to get the education, because even with the education, they still have the challenges of being in the workforce, even as an educated black man. And I turned out okay. I'm not complaining about the way my life turned out. So I'm hoping this was educational here today. I'm hoping my friends in the black community are seeing that there are specific reasons. And again, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just 15 things that I noticed kind of scrolling through Facebook and Instagram, seeing what people were saying, why white people don't engage in helping with the social injustices happening to the black community. Hopefully this starts a dialogue and starts a greater understanding of why things are the way they are, and maybe we can get more people involved. It's the heart of what I'm doing right now. I feel like we as the white community have a duty to stand up for this. And again, it's not a political thing, it's a human rights thing. And it's making sure that a wrong is right kind of thing. All right, let's see what you guys have to say. I'm going to go over here to Instagram first, then to Facebook, and finally to YouTube. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And Brittany says, not being racist is no longer enough. We must be anti-racist. And that's something that was hammered into me pretty good this week, Brittany. Thank you for that, by the way. Because a lot of white people, they try to get out of their duty to help by saying, well, I'm not a racist. Well, not being racist, saying you're not racist is a passive racist. So I agree with you. Jay Creek says, I never heard of it before. A lot of folks haven't. It's like we have to be bilingual and know that there's two different norms in America. It's scary when you see that there are different rules and different things that have to be done within the black community simply because of the color of their skin. And we need to acknowledge that. Oops. Thank you, Instagram. Let me pop over to my Facebook page. Hey guys, what's going on? Let me scroll back to the top, see what you guys have to say about all this. Nancy says, watching the peaceful protests in Virginia Beach today. It's a very mixed group of individuals participating. Reminds me of the protests back in the 60s when I was younger. I truly believe many people are trying to listen to each other. I love that there's so many great peaceful protests going on. And I think the media only highlights the ones that are violent and the looting because that's like ratings gold for them. I'm interested in ratings gold. I want to see that people are coming together. I want to see that we're trying to unify, not continue to divide. And so thank you for sharing that about Virginia Beach, the Hampton Roads area. I saw last night in Hampton, there was a similar kind of event that was very peaceful and no violence whatsoever. In fact, the police in Hampton, which is a mostly African-American community, they actually were driving people to the event. So that's quite the juxtaposition of all this craziness that we're seeing on television elsewhere. Dennis says, I see humans, not color. Well, that's part of the problem, Dennis. And I know that's so hard for us white people to wrap our heads around. Oh, I don't see race, I only see the human race. That's actually denying what's happening to the black community. And trust me, I got corrected on that because I said, we don't need to make this black or white. We're all in the human race. That was one of the like memes that I made when I posted about this originally. And I got called out so hard. And then somebody finally explained, yeah, when you say that, you're denying that their house is on fire. And as much as we want to be one human race and we don't want to see color, the black community wants you to see their color so that you know, look, we're dealing with strife because of the color of skin. So that sounds all well and good, Dennis, but it's actually more unproductive than you realize. My white friends seem to want to say, message heard, let's move on. It's not that easy. My black friends seem to hear that as we hear you, but nothing is going, there's so much work to do. Exactly. You can't just say, okay, black people, I hear you, and then you don't do anything. That again is a passive action. We need action to take place. We need to be proactive in being anti-racist. We need to educate other white people. It's what I'm doing here on Jimmy Rants. I want you guys to know that a lot of the ways that we believe and think aren't as productive as we think they are. Let's not say, okay, yeah, we see you're being oppressed. I'm sorry about that. Oh, poor you. Okay, let's move on. That's not going to fix anything. We need to actually put our money where our mouth is. We need to put our actions where our mouth is. We need to be calling for other white people to cool it with being racist. And again, I think the vast majority of white people are not racist, and yet there are a few, and we need to call them out when it happens. Our black friends need that. Nancy says, my husband is of Native American origin. Going back to the Trail of Tears, he feels the plight of Americans is being belittled by the Black Lives Matter phrase. I'm trying to explain that they're not belittling the Native Americans, but instead highlighting the Black lives injustices. Everyone's injustices will be tackled if we tackle this one. And that's true. I've thought a lot about that too, and I've had various people, I know somebody on Facebook earlier said she's a Jew that lived in Russia, and that there was kind of a certain stigma of being a Jew living in Russia, so she came to America to get out of that. And so she kind of takes umbrage in the same way that your husband does, Nancy. Well, why doesn't my life matter as a Jew, and I'm a minority, blah, blah, blah. But I agree, if we can resolve this issue in the African American community, then it makes it easier to implement it with all minorities. Cindy says, I personally just feel too naive and uneducated about the issues that they have. Well, that's our job, is to try to learn what those are. And I think it's their job to help us understand. And I don't think we need to just have them throw their hands up in the air and go, well, I just don't know how to explain it anymore. This is why you got the whiter than white Jimmy Moore coming on Jimmy Rants, trying to help you understand some of these issues, because I do feel there is a bit of exasperation on the part of the black community trying to explain this for the millionth time. And if they're tired of explaining it, then maybe there needs to be someone else who could step up. Again, it was a white woman who explained these things to me over on Instagram, and I'm glad she did. And now I'm trying to help a lot of you guys understand a lot of the issues that are at hand. Cindy says, I was always taught you ask first before you reach. When you get pulled over, you don't have your hands in your pockets in a store, and as a woman, you cross the street if a man is walking towards you. Yeah, sounds like you had good parents, Cindy. All right, thank you, Facebook. Let me come over to my YouTube channel. What's up, YouTube? Jimmy, no matter what you do, what you say, it will never be enough, says Johnny. Well, I disagree with that. I think if we start having honest conversations and start doing it in a spirit of love and understanding, I don't think all of this is for naught. I would not be wasting my time if I thought it was. I realize there are certain segments of both the white community and the African American community that want to keep this rabble rousing going for whatever their own personal interests. Let's not kid ourselves. There are people in this for the sole purpose of their own personal agendas. Okay? But that said, I don't think it's not worth our effort. I don't think we should just turn a blind eye to things that we can do. And my heart has always been for people. It will always be for people. I've even had some people lately kind of criticizing me. Well, I wish you'd get back to talking about keto. Guys, I talk about keto and fasting and all things still. I'm still doing that. I haven't just gone exclusive to talking about this issue here. I still talk about all of those nutrition things. But guys, this is life. You don't have a keto diet to eat. You don't talk about life stuff. And so no, this is not for naught. This is not wasting my time and wasting breath. It's for a good purpose. And I'm going to keep speaking out and speaking out boldly and encouraging other white people. And white people, speak out. Stand up for the black community. They need us now more than ever before. If we don't take this opportunity right here, right now, to make things change, do you think this issue is just going to go away? Have you been paying attention the last 10, 20 years? Has it gone away at all? No. Will it go away on its own? No. We have to take a stand. And I, for one, am taking the stand here today. Harp C says, all the best. We should elect leaders who should help us live the American dream. Poverty causes crime everywhere in the world. A person with a job and secure future seldom steals. I like your thoughts are not compromised by a brain feed with sugar. Yeah. No, I'm very fat fueled, I promise you. I think the world would be a very different one with true human nutrition. Well, that's true. That's another story for another day. I stopped watching the mainstream media years ago. I prefer the internet for my information. Stand up for the truth, says Stephen. Okay. That's what we're doing here today, brother. Thank you for sharing your comments. All right. YouTube, let me pop over here to my Instagram channel. Jay Creek says, I took this for my employer to acknowledge that their insurance fat tax affected people of color more and should be changed. Yeah, there's a lot of those kinds of little things that do have an impact that we don't even think about. Like, a lot of the African American community is diabetic. A lot of the African American community deals with obesity, and they're not teaching good nutrition, and they're not getting the help that they need in that area. I'm hoping that some of this focus on the black community deals with some of those issues as well. I spoke on it for a year, and they just admitted the wellness penalty does affect people of color more than others, and now they're going to revise it. Well, that's great. Good for you speaking up and defending your black brothers and sisters who were being unfairly targeted with that. And I think we need to be looking at those kinds of things. That's a part of maybe some of this systemic racism that's out there. And again, this is not a political issue. I know people want to identify this because Black Lives Matter is associated with a political kind of bent. Let's look at it as lowercase Black Lives Matter, as a human rights thing. And if you start to look at it through that prism, this doesn't become such a knee-jerk, caustic cause that would make you turn a blind eye, white person. White people need to stand up. We need to be engaged. We need to be helping the black community. And they need us now more than ever before. That's it for this episode of Jimmy Rants. JimmyRants.com is the website. And as always, you can engage live in the content. You got to go follow me over here on Instagram. I'm at Living Low Carb Man, LivinLowCarbMan. Once you're there, engage live. We also simulcast live over here on my Facebook page. Thank you guys for being here today. We also simulcast over on YouTube Live. Thank you all for being here today on Jimmy Rants. So on Instagram, IGTV. As soon as we're done here, we post it. We put a few notes into there, and then we post it on my page, and it's available to watch on replay on IGTV. We also throw the past episodes up over on YouTube. Just type in a keyword Jimmy Rants. You will find the show. Finally, go to jimmyrants.com. All the past episodes are there as well. And if you like what we do here and the messages that we hear, please consider supporting the show. Click on the Patreon page and you can help us keep this show going. So guys, that's it for now. Until next time, we'll see you then. All right. Can I tell you that is not an easy topic to talk about on a live show? Because the fear that a lot of people would have is, oh crap, I'm talking about race relations. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I fumble? What if I just don't get it right and somebody's offended? I'm not as worried about people being offended. I'm more in trying to get the discussion going. Because quite frankly, guys, if we don't talk about this and we don't have a discussion, we are not going to resolve this. We're not. And we must resolve it. That's the part of this whole thing that kind of gets me the most is we all just hope it resolves on its own. And nobody's taking action to make sure it does resolve. It's a lot of hope. Hope isn't going to make change happen. Hope is hope, but it's not going to make change happen. So I'm hoping some of these things that I talk about, and I'll be posting all over social media and already have been, gets people to think, and we kind of open our eyes, white community, and realize the things that are going on. It's almost we're living in parallel universes with the black community, and they're living one set of circumstances in their life. Meanwhile, we're totally oblivious to all those circumstances they go through. And then they're living the reality of their life and they're feeling oppressed because of those realities. We have to acknowledge that, and we have to see that, and we have to keep educating ourselves. And it's something I'm going to continue to do. I'm not even close to being done being educated, but I feel like I've been gifted with a voice and with an ability to teach, and I'm trying to use those gifts, talents to get this message out there in a clear, concise way. All right, guys, let me get off of here for now. Thanks so much for watching today. Thanks so much for engaging in this conversation, and we'll be back again soon.